Leave you and create. See it as innate in the dream room. Yeah. We're bringing dreams alive in the place to shine in the dream room. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Dream Room, where we explore the quiet corners of purpose, the courage it takes to build a vision from scratch, and the deeply human stories behind the work that changes our world. I am your host, Amytra. Today, we are joined by an extraordinary woman whose heart beats loudly for her community. Robin Ritter is the founder and CEO of Uniquely Yours Stability Support, a cornerstone nonprofit right out of Fremont, Nebraska. But Robin is so much more than a title or an organization chart. She's the builder of hope, a fierce advocate for those whose voices often go unheard, and someone who has walked through her own profound fires to create a sanctuary of healing and support for others. Today, we aren't just talking about community service, we are diving into the soul of what it means to give everything to a calling. Robin, welcome to the Dream Room.
Oh, thank you. What a nice intro. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Why don't you go ahead and share with the listeners what your organization is about and things like
Sure.
that?
Thank you. Yeah. So our mission is to address the dynamics of homelessness by collaborating with our community in a comprehensive approach to establish permanent stability and independence. From 2007 to 2014, we only had one program, and that was our financial support referral program, which is referral based only. So, Uniquely Yours is designed to address gaps in services. We have several strong, fantastic nonprofits, and over 30 of them are our partners. And so when they make a referral to us, it's for a unique obstacle to housing stability. And that nonprofit is saying that they cannot address what this obstacle is. They can refer to us on behalf of that client to remove what that obstacle is. Then we reach out to our service link partners, which are area businesses that have partnered with us that have the ability to remove that obstacle. For example, we have mechanics and tow companies and vision centers and appliance stores and heating and cooling companies, and a huge list. And that means those area businesses, they want to be a part of the equation too, but they want to make sure that it's for a family or individual that's ready. That family or individual has to have a sustainable plan, or that agency is helping them work on a sustainable plan. In the beginning, I operated out of the trunk of my car. I met people in the parks, the libraries, other agencies, wherever they needed me to be. And then our business grew into our own downtown location. And then in 2014, because now we have a large physical location, we weren't prepared for the magnitude of people that were walking through our doors because we didn't provide services. We supported those existing agencies so that no one falls through the gaps in services. So now we had to figure out, what do we do with these people? How can we connect them to those agency partners? So we held our version of a lunch and learn where we invited family, friends, their neighbors, those in need to come to our agency, have a meal, have a dialogue with us. And we asked them, what would it take for you to be willing to sit down and visit with us and allow us to connect you to those agencies and services here in Fremont to help you work on your goals? Everything they said became our second program, which is called our community support program. And it included comprehensive case management, care packages, a free community computer lab, life skill classes, workshops, budgeting, free counseling, a free unique boutique shop, which is our free thrift store, groups, activities, emergency food pantries, etc. Then in 2023, we had an opportunity because our community has grown, our partners have grown, to reevaluate our service deliveries. And right around that same time, I was praying because Uniquely Yours is faith based. And I thought, gosh, if we could operate out of a church, that would be perfect. And right around that time, St. Timothy Lutheran Church reached out and offered us a large space within their church. And so that's where we are now.
Wow, that's amazing. So it sounds like, this is a big operation now. I mean, this is fantastic and you've got all these offshoots. But in the beginning, before you even were operating out of the trunk of your car, I mean, why this particular mission?
Sure. So it was in the 80s. I was divorced, a single mom, having my own struggles. I was falling through the gaps in services and I was praying to God to help me. And He blessed me with the entire concept for Uniquely Yours stability support. But there were so many of my personal barriers that I felt guilty. Years went by. I thought, gosh, so many would benefit from an agency that would be willing to work behind the scenes to support other services to ensure no one falls through the gaps in services. But I'm only one person.
Hmm.
How do you begin? And actually, it ended up that guilt and that fear, it was divine timing because I wasn't ready yet.
I can relate to that. So, what is a core value or a specific lesson from your childhood in Nebraska that guides every single decision you make as a CEO today?
That everyone has the strength they need to move forward. Sometimes it takes someone who believes in them
Yeah.
and will listen to them and look at the whole picture, not just what's going on now, centered around a need, but what brought them to that point. And for them to know that they have the power inside of them to make those changes. I think it's our strength also lies in I feel that your experiences and your struggles gives you the natural tools to be able to relate to a particular population that you want to serve. For me, I was a victim of domestic violence. I have been homeless before.
Mm.
I always had the desire to help other people. And my journey took me back to school, get ready for this next step. And that's why I really believe it was divine timing.
Mhm.
God was preparing the path and getting things lined up and ready for me to move forward.
Did you have doubts along the way? And if you did have those days, what pulled you back to center?
Yes. That's a tough one because I had a lot of fear and anxiety.
Mhm.
What helped me was knowing that this was my calling. And a lot of people go through life and they're uncertain about that. They question, they wonder, am I in my groove or in my niche? And I know that I am. And I'll share some of examples of some of those fears. So I've had 6 spine surgeries. Unfortunately, I was born with a bad spine, But I was between spine surgeries. I was very depressed. I didn't feel like I had much self-worth. And I was sort of just living in this pain and discomfort
Mhm.
and letting it kind of consume me. And I knew I was better than that. And I reached out to Nebraska VR. I just wanted to get reconnected to life again. And they helped me to start a volunteer position at a local shelter, which ended up hiring me. But while I was there, I saw people on a daily basis that could really benefit from a nonprofit like Uniquely Yours Stability Support. And it was a friend of mine that said, Robin, why don't you just do that? Well, that's easy to say, just do that.
Right.
So, first, I had to start with our 501(c)(3), and I reached out to an accountant to see if he would help me with that. And he was going to charge me $2,000. I didn't have $2,000. And I doubted myself and I thought, well, I can't do that. But I did do it. And we did receive our 501(c)(3). Then I had anxiety and fear over asking for money and
Oh,
talking to donors. Well, you can't be that way and run a
right.
nonprofit. We are strategically privately funded so that we can be faith based. However, it was so difficult for me, and I thought, "I can just push myself, I can do this." But there were so many fears and anxiety, and I wrote a grant to a foundation. It was accepted. They invited me to come and present the idea to them, and I went to their location. I parked my car, and, I could not get out of that car.
Oh,
I was so nervous, so doubting my words that I had to do self talk. I had to tell myself, Robin, get your rear end out of this car and go in there and present this idea. And so I did. I went through the doors, and then I was even more nervous because I wasn't the only one invited. There was a group of other nonprofits and other organizations with their fabulous ideas, and
oh,
they weren't alone. They had other people with them.
mm,
They had brochures, they had charts, and all I had was my mouth. And so that made me even more nervous. Now it's my turn to go into the room, and it was a huge horseshoe of people. And I'm at the front of the room. They're all staring at me.
mm.
I don't remember to this day, I do not remember anything I said, but I do know it was horrific. And I left feeling like, gosh, I wouldn't give me any money.
Oh,
And it turned out that the president of the foundation knew that I was working at the shelter. He got a hold of the executive director and told her, "You have a Robin that is working at the shelter.
mm.
She presented, she has a really good idea, but she needs your help and she needs our help. Please have her call me." And I was nervous about that, but I called, and that just snowballed into being open for support
Mm.
and suggestions and guidance. And it led from one person to a group of people that just started to embrace Uniquely Yours. And it just slowly started to take shape. And I love talking to the youth,
Mm.
and I love telling them that don't let fear get in the way. And I share that story about how it is difficult, but anything that's worth a magnitude of benefits to so many is worth pushing past that.
Hmm. Like they say, the devil is a liar. That's what fear is. But how has your relationship with failure changed?
Well, through the lessons of that those self-doubts, I now know that one, God doesn't make mistakes, that everything will be okay as long as I always do the best that I can. And I'll share with you one of the biggest lessons that helped me work around when self doubt comes up.
Oh, thank you.
So, through the years, there was a time that our funding was so low that our board of directors was looking at our exit strategy.
Mm.
And I was wondering, do we give it to another nonprofit? Do we close? What do we do? And at that time, I was remarried. I got remarried 10, 10, 10. And we were taking our son to his football game in Omaha, and the phone rang, and it was the Berg family. And they were aware of our financial struggles, and they were aware of our mission and our partnerships and all the things that we do. And they said, Robin, if you will continue to move forward, we will pledge $100,000
Oh.
divided into 2 years, so that's $50,000 per, and they were so happy with I'm a little bit of a data freak, so I collect a lot of data, especially subjective data, and I like to evaluate how we're doing, how our partners are doing. I like to gather stats and they were so pleased with the reports that we provided on the outcomes of their funding. They continued that pledge for many years after that until their age prevented them to continue. And that day, when I felt that this is going to be the end of Uniquely Yours,
Mm.
and lesson was, look, it wasn't. And so I totally embrace that now. I know that it will always be okay, and it always is okay.
Oh, that is so inspiring. Oh, I'm sure listeners are just eating that up. Um, so, as a woman leading with fierce compassion, how do you protect your own peace amidst life's demands and or others' struggles? Because you must hear a lot of deep stories and you know
Oh,
heavy stories.
yeah. Um, and during our time, COVID hit. That was a big struggle for us. And so you can have a lot of compassion for those that you serve and to be passionate and to work through those fears and anxiety, but like you were saying, personally you need to figure out a compromise. And for a very long time I gave almost all of me to Uniquely Yours, where I would come home so drained and so exhausted, working with people that are in crises and trying to walk them along their own personal storyline to have insights on, what brought them there. It's draining.
Hmm.
And I had to, for my family and for myself, figure out a way, how can I have those boundaries and how can I balance wanting Uniquely Yours to help so many, but then to still keep my own sanity.
Hmm.
And so that's what started trying to figure out that balance. And I feel like I have that now. And those are all those lessons that you learn along the way.
So you don't have like one prescription for that or advice that you could give others?
Well, to listen and to be open to what those around you are saying. You know, it's easy for us that's in the middle of wanting to make a difference to get lost in it. Make sure your heart is open and you're listening to those that love you, like your family.
Mhm.
And it was my family, my husband, particularly, that was telling me that, honey, I'm so proud of you, everything that you're accomplishing and how hard you're working, but I miss my wife.
Mm.
And well, gee, that's a big statement. And it was so true. And I listened with an open heart and we came up with a plan. And our board of directors have always been so supportive. Really, anything that I need, they have been there or have tried to figure out a way to make it work. I remember in the very beginning, that was one of my first big mistakes when I put the board together. I thought, well, if we are going to support those other agencies and their gaps in services, who better to have on a board than representatives of those other agencies so that they can make sure that we're addressing their gaps in services? Well, that means that you do not have a working board, you have an advisory board.
Mm.
So I shared that with the board after I was working so hard to make things happen. And the board then took their own direction. And now we have a large, very powerful working board. And I'm just so thankful for that.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So beyond metrics and numbers, take us into a quiet, unscripted moment with a client where you thought, this is why I was put on this earth.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. We have a term that's called informal supports, and what that means is w- we want those that we serve to have as many informal supports as possible. So that's a list of names that they can call. We know the fastest, easiest way to increase that list of names is through churches. And on our form, it asks, do you have a church affiliation? Would you like to have one? And I will always remember this young lady that was sitting across my desk when I got to that question. And she said, I would like to be part of a prayer circle. And she didn't want to go alone. So I went in with her, introduced her to people, and then we left together. But then her life changed. She started working very hard, was very motivated, was no longer in the system, and came back to volunteer for us. When we know that we're changing lives, that's a very powerful thing. And I visited with so many case managers in the field that get really hung up on, well, they're not listening to me. If they would just listen to me, their life would be different. And I tried to remind them that not everyone is ready at the same time. That and when they're ready, that's when changes will happen.
Mm. So true. What is a story of transformation you've witnessed that still gives you goosebumps when you think about it?
Oh, what a beautiful question. Um, So this was when we had a lady walk in with a single mom with her son, and she said all she needed was heat.
Mm.
And I started talking to her, and I learned that her ultimate goal in life and dream would be to own her own cleaning business. She was ready. She had a disability. So I connected her with one of our partners, Nebraska VR, and they helped her with a business plan. She did so much. And I'll jump a year ahead. She owned her own cleaning business and was no longer advertising. She was doing so well. And she would stop in ever so often to visit with us. And our ultimate silent goal is to move people from needing the community to supporting the community. To us, that's the ultimate success. And she said, I remember a time when my son and I didn't have a Christmas tree
Mm.
and how devastating that was. And I know that there's other families that are experiencing that same thing, and I want to do something about it. Oh my gosh, I got goosebumps. I was so excited for her. And I said, well, let's talk about how you can do this. Well, we are on the radio 2 times a month. We went on the radio and she asked the community to drop off Christmas trees, to bring it to Uniquely Yours. And then at the same time, she welcomed families who needed a Christmas tree to come to Uniquely Yours to get a Christmas tree. And that is transformation. That is her moving from having the need of heat for her and her son to thriving.
Mhm. How have people who've walked through the doors of Uniquely Yours Stability Support inspired you?
Oh, when I see that they are motivated and open and ready.
Mm.
I so admire that. And because it's not easy, it's a big deal to walk through a door and be humble enough to ask for what you need, not knowing if you're going to receive what you need or not. And I value that. And it is awe-inspiring when they walk through the doors and ask for what they need, and to be open to hear suggestions and embrace those connections.
How has carrying the hopes and heavy stories of so many others reshaped your own definition of what a meaningful life looks like?
Ooh, that's another good question. Well, I totally 100% believe that I am living my purpose.
Mm.
I do wish I could do it longer. I'm getting older. I feel like before you know it, I'm going to be 70.
Mm.
I'm actually 66, but I always bump my age up. So that's how I feel. Um, but we're so connected in our community now. I I really think that there will always be a part of Uniquely Yours that continues. In the beginning, it wasn't easy getting the agencies to talk together.
Mhm.
Back in 2007, they were all wanting their own thing and their own money, and really wasn't so heavy into collaborating. But now that's the way everyone's functioning now, and I'm just so thankful for that.
What is a dream that you want to claim for yourself in the next chapter? Something entirely for you outside of the nonprofit.
I know that this is connecting myself and the nonprofit.
That's okay. If that's your
um, but I would love and pray that Uniquely Yours can find the money to allow us to hire some competent staff so that I don't have to be so hands-on and so present. And, I have my own health issues that are going on right now that I keep putting on the back burner. And
Mm.
my husband has Parkinson's. And um I really do need to focus on that, but still want to make a difference. And it's very difficult when we don't have the funds to be able to hire the additional support staff that we need. the majority of our funds go to direct client services. And, we're able to stretch those funds because of our service link partners, those area businesses that provide that service at incredible discounts, sometimes for free if it's a car repair or tires or an appliance repair or heating and cooling, whatever that referred hardship is. And, it's an ongoing struggle. It would be different if we went after state and federal money, but are strategically privately funded. We go after, foundations, private donors, so that we can be faith based. And so that is what I hope for.
Oh, great. So, if uniquely yours could only leave one indelible permanent footprint in the heart of Fremont, Nebraska, what do you pray that footprint is?
Gosh, you have such great questions. Um, that it is not only okay, but that a nonprofit can still do well if they're working behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Um, right now, in our community, we're the only nonprofit that works behind the scenes to support our agency partners. Now, that's different than collaborating. There's lots of collaboration that's going on, but I believe we're setting an example that this is part of the equation, that it takes a village, it takes everyone to have their unique role, and that it's okay to have a role that you're not in the spotlight. Uh, and we're not in the spotlight because we take that position. I still sometimes hear to this day, someone will say, uniquely your stability support, who are they? And we've been around since 2007.
Mhm.
And it's because of that position, but that's where we need to be able to accomplish our mission.
Mm. So, Robin, after everything you've survived, built, and given, how does it feel in your skin right now to know that you are standing fully in your purpose? Mm.
Absolutely, totally blessed. And I am proud of myself that I've learned along the way have so impacted me as a person. When I shared with you how earlier I felt like I didn't have self worth because of my spine problems, and it got me depressed, and I feel very proud, and I feel very, very blessed.
Oh, wow. I just want to thank you so much for being so open and, candid and sharing, especially about your fears and your doubts, because everyone has those at some point,
Mhm.
that imposter syndrome. I know I felt it many times myself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're just an amazing guest, such an inspiration.
Oh, thank you. It's definitely been my honor and pleasure, and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity.